Welcome to another episode of Under the Strap. I'm your host, John Rathouz, and on this episode, I catch up with Ron Levin, better known as Bambi. Bambi has been a caddy since 1987 and got his nickname his first week on the road as a 17-year-old. He's been a fixture in the golf world ever since, caddying for Jack Nicklaus, David Duval, and Bigfoot himself, Anthony Kim, among many others. But his greatest achievement is being on the bag for Todd Hamilton's win at the 2004 Open Championship at Royal Troon in a playoff over Ernie Els. In fact, you should thank Todd and Sonar Tech for that hybrid in your golf bag that you can land softly from 200 yards, Shaq's big toe, as an old pro of mine used to say. Bambi's also got a lot of experience around St. Andrews, and just recently, he caddied in the first ever LIV Golf event in London. So there's nobody better to catch up with this week as the golf world returns home. I'll never forget the week he organized a private charter flight for half of the tour to get from the mountains of West Virginia to the next stop. A successful businessman off the golf course, he's always been one step ahead and one of the best caddies I've ever met at making connections. Enjoy the next 30 minutes with the man they call Bambi. This Under the Strap podcast is presented by Therabody. If your muscles are sore or tight, help them relax with the Therabody Theragun. The #1 massaging tool on the market and incredibly easy to use, the Theragun is designed to help you play longer and get more out of your body. So do what caddies and players on tour do and treat your muscles. Go to therabody.com/caddy, CADDIE, to get your Theragun today, starting at just $199. Now it's time for another episode of Under the Strap. Joined now under the strap by Bambi, Ron Levin, longtime caddy on tour, major winning caddy. Bambi, thanks for taking some time.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here. Good to see your face again.
Yeah, man. Hey, your nickname, we got to get that out of the way. I mean, it reveals something about you, but tell us a little bit about the nickname and when you first got started caddying.
I got started caddying in 1987. I was right age of 17 years old. My father got me into the game. My father played football and got injured, and he saw golf. He got into golf later in life, and he saw the golf was fun, and that you could do it for a long time and not get your career curtailed after a year or 2 years or 5 years. So my father actually grew up back in the 60s. There really wasn't much of a traveling caddy, a tour caddy. The golfers had local caddies that they would use, and some of the locals would be more regional. So my dad lived in Westchester, New York, so he caddied at a club, and then when the tour came around, he caddied for Doug Ford at Westchester, and then Doug would take him to Hartford, Connecticut, and maybe to Boston, a couple. So that was kind of a summer job for him, and he got me into caddying in Denver, where I grew up when I was 14 years old. He would drive me out there and send me to go to work. It sounds like child slave labor, but it was super fun. I met you end up meeting influential people at country clubs, and not only did I learn the game of golf and met people, but I was a Monday member of Denver Country Club and later Castle Pines, which meant I get to go play there on Monday.
Monday member, I love that.
And you really, it's probably one of the best jobs a young kid could have, and there were some, and be able to play golf, to fund your golf. So there was, like I said, even in the late 80s, there were some traveling caddies, but every golfer didn't have a caddy, and especially when the senior tour and the ladies tour rolled through Denver, and later the international that I believe started in 87 or 88. There'd be a lot of golfers that would take local caddies. So I would work those 3 weeks, and again, to be able to fund my golf for the summer. And I loved it. It was incredible. I felt like I was, part of a team and in a pro event. And I decided that I wanted to do it for the summer at age 17. And somehow my dad talked my mom into letting me, basically one of the other caddies who I just met that week back in May of 1987, after the senior tournament that was in Denver, came over to my house in his Cadillac with two other caddies and loaded me in the car, and we drove to to Palm Springs. And
Unbelievable.
that was the beginning of what's been 34, 35 years. I'm pretty early in my career. I looked, if I was 17, I looked like I was 15. And ironically enough, one of the other caddies, a guy named Cameron Whittle, we were sitting at a Red Onion bar restaurant in Palm Springs, and I think they were having a beer. I was probably having a Coke, and Bambi was playing at the movie theater. That was maybe right outside the restaurant. And there was a cardboard cutout of Bambi, and Cameron said, "That reminds me of you, just little Bambi trolling around the fairways." And everybody kind of had a laugh. And I'll never forget the next day I was walking across the putting green at Tamarisk, and Steve Pate, he had told Steve Pate that, and Steve Pate's like, "Oh, Bambi, that's perfect." And to this day, that stands. And one of the funny things is it hasn't happened in a little while, but I've frequently gotten calls from golfers and caddies' wives and girlfriends that see Bambi in the cell phone and think it's some gal that they met on the road, and they say, "Hey, call him. It's a guy. He's a caddy." And I get the, "Oh, sorry, Bambi. I just want to make sure you were a guy." But that's a
You're
little
saving marriages too.
exactly. And back then it was, caddying was an adventure. It wasn't a job. It was we all loved golf. Half of the job of caddying was traveling and figuring out how to get to the next place.
Yeah.
There was no, you had to learn how to use an atlas and a payphone, and there was no money in it. Four guys would sleep in the cheapest hotel room you could get. You'd be driving to tournaments, and it was a fun thing for 17 to I don't know, 25 or 26-year-old to do.
Right. Yeah. A lot of the kids out of college for the summer and stuff like that. That's awesome to hear how you got started. And one of the loops you had early on or along the way was Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear. I guess, what was that like? When did you loop for him?
So I was caddying on the regular tour at the time. It would have been 1993. So maybe the year before, they used to have a tournament up in Vail, Colorado, called the Jerry Ford Invitational, and I went up there to caddy, and it happened to be Jack Nicklaus Jr.'s first event as a pro. He got a spot there, and I caddied for him there, and we got to be friends, obviously. And so fast forward maybe a year or two, the Senior U.S. Open was at Cherry Hills in '93, I believe it was. And I think I was working for Willie Wood at the time, and Willie might have been taking a little time off, so I just went out to the course maybe on a Monday or Tuesday, and saw Jackie and Jack out there, and got to talking to Jackie, and I just asked Jack, who was caddying for him the next week at the British Open, and he told me that his shoulder had been bugging him, and he probably wasn't going to play. And I said, "Well, if you happen to end up playing, I'd love to caddy for you there." And I ended up working for TV that week, which was kind of a common thing to do back then.
Yeah.
Peter Jacobson was in the booth, and I was kind of Peter Jacobson's caddy in the booth that week. I would, give him some stats and give him some cue cards, and of course, I mentioned it to Peter that I could be caddying for Jack next week at the British Open, and Jack ends up playing well on Thursday. I saw him that evening, and he said, "Hey, let's talk on Saturday. We'll see what happens." So Jack again was playing well on Saturday. I saw him after he did his interview on the network, and he said, "Yeah, if you want to go, that'd be perfect." He goes, "Just when we get done tomorrow, we'll probably leave about an hour after we get done. Pack your stuff. Be sure you have your passport." And I couldn't have been more excited. There was a smile on my face from ear to ear, and Jack ends up winning the golf tournament. He beat Tom Weiskopf on
This is the
on
'93
Sunday.
U.S. Senior Open.
The '93 U.S. Senior Open, and and of course Peter knows all the TV guys know that I'm going to be caddying for Jack Nicklaus next week at the British Open, and so I'll never forget Peter's interviewing Jack, and he says, "Jack, tell me about having your son Jackie on the bag. Another monumental win for you guys." And he goes, "Gosh," he goes, there were moments like this that are just incredible. And he said it meant so much to me that I'm going to ask my son Gary to caddy for me next week at the British Open. And Peter just looked at me, and I looked at Peter, and that big grin just went away real quick. And I got fired for the first time on national TV without anyone else knowing it. So the interview ended, and Jack came up to me and goes, "Oh my gosh," he goes, "I'm so sorry about that." He said, "I wanted to talk to you first, but obviously that wasn't the case." He said, "I really want Gary to come over and work." He goes, I'd love for you to work for me. How about the international?" And I said, "Well, I've already got a commitment." I was working for Brett Ogle at the time. That's who it was. And we kind of left it at that. And, a little disappointed. I ended up, ironically enough, I remember that Gil Morgan had told me that his caddy wasn't going to be going, didn't want to. Back then, guys, caddies paid for their own tickets over the British Open. And on a whim, I really wanted to go. I think it was at St. George's that year. So I called Gil up and asked him if he still needed a caddy. That was Sunday night. And he was just going to take a local. And we worked something out. And I flew out there, and as the golf gods would be, Jack missed the cut, and Gil finished about 15th or so. And we had a fabulous week. And, later, maybe about 3-4 months down the road, I was sitting at my parents' house, and the phone rang. And so apparently what happened was, my dad answered the phone, and someone on the other line said, "Hey, is Ron there?" And he says, "Yeah, can I ask him who's calling?" And my dad says, "Well, who's this?" And he says, "Jack Nicklaus." He goes, "Okay, well, I'm Arnold Palmer," thinking it was one of my friends pulling a joke. But Jack later called me up and asked me to work for him. I think the first one I did was LA. It was kind of the time when Jack had just turned 50 and was still playing some regular tour events. And, none of his boys wanted to caddy the regular tour events where there wasn't a guaranteed check, and much harder, chance for him to win. So that's where it started. I worked for him maybe, I don't know, 15 times over probably 3-4 years, and was actually ended up going back to college, and it was perfect, job while I was in college. I caddied for him 3 or 4 times during the summer, and, maybe during spring break or something like that. So it was an incredible experience, and great to be around him.
You've caddied for a bunch of different guys, and I guess just looking back on working for Jack, was there anything different about working for Jack, or was it just that he was that much better than everyone else? I mean, you were just doing the same caddy gig for him. Did he have any interesting or unusual, things that he had asked of you and stuff like that?
No. I mean, when I first started working for Jack at the time would nothing against, but sometimes he would take one of the pros at his course back in Florida, or maybe a friend to caddy, and I don't think he relied on him that much, or wanted to hear any kind of an opinion. And I think in the beginning it was that way, but after we got comfortable, he did, he would take what I said. He would take if I would say something more to heart. And, if he said, "Do you like 8-iron?" And I happened to say, "No, I think it's a 9." He would, he would take that into consideration more.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, you mentioned the Open Championship. You ended up going there with Gil, and I guess fast forward about 10, 11 years later, you're at the Open Championship at Royal Troon with Todd Hamilton, and he ends up winning the thing in a playoff over Ernie Els.
Yeah.
I guess what do you remember about that week?
It's all a blur now. So I started working for Todd that year earlier in 2004. Todd had played in Japan for a long time. I actually caddied for him at Muirfield, maybe 94, 95. That's how I got to know Todd. And we had always kept in touch. And I went to Japan with Jack one year to Dunlop Phoenix tournament. And the neat thing about Todd was playing over there full time, and Todd could get around Japan, and would take us to dinner and could pick songs off the jukebox for us, and just the little things that we wouldn't be able to do as such foreigners. So when Todd got his card in 04, I started to work for him that year, and he had some pretty immediate success. He won the Honda Classic, which really helped his confidence. And he had in winning the Honda Classic, a lot of things came along with that: trip to the Masters, TPC, and he played a lot of golf in a short amount of time. And he was kind of burned out. He actually was playing some awful golf leading into the Open. we were at Moline, which he wouldn't have played except for his hometown. So he played that week. And we finished close to last. And Todd, my travel plans were to go to Chicago. This was before there was a charter plane that whisked you off from Moline, Illinois, to right to where the British Open is. So my plan was I drove to Chicago and flew from there. Todd wanted to spend an extra night with his family and mom, so he spent the night in Moline. And as luck would have it, the next morning his flight got canceled, and so I was over in Scotland, and they posted a little note on the board, Ron Levin, Todd Hamilton's not going to be here tomorrow. And the same thing happened on Tuesday. And so Todd didn't show up until on Wednesday, I believe. And was kind of down, literally had no expectations. He wasn't playing that great at golf. And didn't really know much about the golf course, didn't really play any practice rounds. And I think that's kind of what really helped us, because there was zero expectations. He was kind of, I like to say, desireless. I love when golfers are desireless. So we started off the week fairly average round the first round. I think one of the big things that happened that week was on Friday morning. I remember walking the golf course because we were playing late. A lot of times you go to 2 or 3 o'clock tee time, and I was walking around the 7th hole, which was the one before the postage stamp. The postage stamp's the 8th hole. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that Freddie Jacobson hit a wayward driver actually into the bunker on 8, which I learned something a long time ago from an old Scottish caddy. He told me that to treat the bunkers over there like they're water hazards, only worse. So in the United States, bunkers are better than being in the rough. It's a totally different mindset. You don't mind being in a bunker, whereas the sodded bunkers over there, if you happen to hit it in one, it's worse than a water hazard, because imagine trying to go in water, having that lie in the water that it teases you into hitting it out, right, and you leave it in the water. And then you, instead of making a bogey, you make a double or a triple. So I kind of noted in my mind that that was on 8, that driver brought a lot of trouble into play. And when we got up there that afternoon, Todd had pulled out a driver, and I talked him into hitting a 4-iron off the tee, because to take all the bunkers out of play. And as luck would have it, we hit a 4-iron down there and hold the next shot, made it 2. And wow, that was a pretty incredible moment there. And that's kind of when I think he turned into conservative mode. Not conservative mode, but he realized that we didn't have to try to overpower the course. We just had to hit it in the right places. And another ironic thing that happened that week was Todd never had a 3-wood that he liked. I used to call it the towel holder. He would only use it to hold the towel on the bag. And so we were actually looking for something to replace our 2-iron that maybe we could use a little more efficiently off the tees. And the Sonartec club rep came up with a couple versions of a 2-iron, and one of them flew incredibly far. And I mentioned that our 3-wood doesn't really help us too much, and maybe we should put this driving iron in instead of having 3-wood. And we were able to do that, and also use one as another one in place of our 2-iron. And Todd got real comfortable using it around the greens, and it was kind of, everyone kind of credits that of the start of the hybrid revolution in golf. And actually, when I got back to the States, I remember seeing in USA Today an article saying, one of the headlines was, Hamilton wins Open, but Nick Price reaps the benefits. Nick Price was one of the minority owners of Sonartec Golf, and I guess the day after the Open, the phone started ringing there and didn't stop for a long time. And a lot of people want to have those hybrids in their bag.
Yeah, I have it written right here, Sonartec hybrid, and I mean, it is an OG club. A quick break here at the turn to tell you more about the Therabody Theragun. I got mine last summer. It's part of my daily routine, and my body has never felt better. I use it before and after caddying, playing golf, working out, or even relief from being hunched over chasing our 1-year-old. It's so easy to use that I like to use mine while I'm watching TV. And like a lot of you, I'm traveling again soon, so I've got the Theragun Mini ready to go. Pumped about that. It's a space saver in your luggage and the most popular one with caddies on tour, so I can't recommend it enough. All right, let's get back to the podcast. What about the playoff with Ernie? I guess, what do you remember about that? I mean, you see those a lot in the Open Championship. I mean, you go out there, you got 3 holes, and it could be pretty exciting.
It was 4 holes back then.
4 holes.
So we played 1, 2, 17, and 18. And, at that point, it was really just so I think our philosophy going into the week, especially as bad as he was playing, was we kind of had this goal that a top 10 at the Open would cement us in the Tour Championship. And I kind of just built on that anything past that would be a bonus. Gosh, if we win, that's a bonus. And we had fun. And the ironic thing about it, there's a ditch that kind of runs through the first and second hole. I can't remember if it's probably about 240 or 250 out. And so we got up to that first tee, and Todd hit a 4-iron short of just as we'd played all week, and Ernie hit a driver over the ditch. And all the people were still sitting in the stands of 18 waiting for us to come through. And the announcer over the loudspeaker came up and said, Ernie Els has just outdriven Todd Hamilton, and that kind of broke the ice. We looked at each other like, we hit a 4-iron. And so we met our par. Same thing on the second hole. Todd hit a 4-iron. Ernie hit driver over everything, and again 2 pars. And we go to the 17th hole, which is a really difficult par 3, and that's where the tournament was won. Todd hit a great shot. Ernie missed the green, made bogey, and the last hole, Todd didn't hit a good drive, which he hadn't in regulation. Same thing, and hit one up just short of the green, maybe about 20 yards off the green. I actually got a picture of it right here. Maybe about 15 yards off the green, and chose to hit that Sonartec hybrid, use it as a putter, and knocked it up there to comfortable length and made it. And we had a really fun time after that.
Yeah, drinking out of the claret jug. I'm sure there's a lot of caddies that say that that's the best walk in golf. I mean, is that a true statement?
It really is. It's what Todd used to say about that, and David Duval kind of had to echo the same sentiment, was that the way they set up an Open Championship is probably the same as they would for their club championship. It's very fair. There's no gimmicks, and the people. Everyone in Scotland and England plays golf, and they grew up playing golf, and they appreciate good golf shots. And it's very special. The golf courses around there, they weren't built as housing developments. They were built for golf courses. And it's not about how green you can get your grass. It's just about having a great surface to play the game in a great arena. So it really is something special. Another neat thing about the British Open when we go over there is I never bring my golf clubs to a regular tour event, but a lot of the guys bring their clubs over to the British Open. It stays light till midnight or later, and it's really a celebration of the game. I stayed with Mike Cow and Fluff the last time it was at St. Andrews, I believe, and I kid you not, Mike Cowan might have played 100 holes of golf other than caddying. It was the most incredible. Every afternoon he would be gone until dark. I actually played with him one day was the only time I saw him, and I think you realize and you embrace that, and it really is the home of golf.
You mentioned St. Andrews there with Fluff. I mean, obviously, huge tournament this week. I think in many respects, it's maybe the biggest major of the 21st century. There's just so many things going on in the world of golf right now, but obviously returning to the home of golf. What are your thoughts on St. Andrews? I mean, having caddied there and what people should expect, next week, maybe from like a, what's going on standpoint, but also from like some of the challenges that are unique about St. Andrews.
I mean, it's all just going to depend on the weather. Like you always hear about the British Open. If it's playing firm, it's there's going to be a lot of birdies to be made. Somebody could shoot 59 out there. There's, especially with today's technology, there's 7 or 8 holes that are drivable. And if the weather gets bad, it's a survival of the fittest. Did Oosthuizen win the last?
Zach Johnson last time, but Louis before that, yeah, and then Tiger.
So when we were there, the year Louis won, I'll never forget. I was caddying for David Duval, and we were late early, and I remember walking to the driving range, and Louis posted something, great number, 5-6 under the first day, and that was not in the cards the second day. That afternoon, they ended up stopping play, and I remember the next day seeing the same thing. I think he got to 10 under, and he was not that he didn't play great golf, but he had the good wave, and I was like, man, all he's got to do is hang on, and sure enough. So there's a lot of luck involved. Obviously, it's staying out of the bunkers. The thing about St. Andrews is you can always bail out left. So the golf course basically is, imagine on a square piece of land, and all the perimeter holes. The trouble's on the right. The out of bounds is on the right. So you can challenge the golf course by hitting it down the right sides and play shorter shots into the green, but there's out of bounds there, and there's bunkers there. So it's kind of, if you're feeling any doubt, aim further left is the way you look at that golf course. And obviously with the way things are with Tiger being there, the whole dynamic of the separation with the LIV Tour and stuff, it's going to be an incredible week, and I'm really bummed I'm not there. It's be the first one I've missed in St. Andrews in a long, long, long time.
Well, yeah, I was gunning to get there last week. I was caddying for Steven Yeager there at the John Deere, and I saw those 3 spots up for grabs, and I won't be there either. But you mentioned the LIV Tour, and you had the opportunity to caddy in the first ever LIV event there in London. You worked for Andy Ogletree last month. I guess, let people know a little bit what that was like caddying in that kind of initial event.
I mean, it was super, super fun. The dynamic is totally different. For the hardcore golf fan, maybe you're watching a tournament like the Shark Shootout or the Hero World Challenge, where the atmosphere is just totally different. And by different dynamic, the thing that was really neat to me was when I go to a regular golf event. The guy I caddy for might be late early, and say you're caddying for someone else, they're early late. And so I may not see you. We're on totally different schedules. And then say I missed the cut, I'm out of there Friday, and I may not see you the whole week. Whereas the LIV Tour, everyone's there at the same time, and we're all staying at the same hotel. When we get done, we all eat together, and it's really. It reminds me a lot more of the old days of the tour, when you got to really know the people you work with and the people you're around, versus just being acquaintances. That's how friendships happen, is when you get to hang out, and you think about, normally on a tournament Sunday, there's only a few guys that are left still there on a Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon to celebrate with. And the way with that format, you've got 100 people there that and one guy just made $5 million, another guy made 4, a caddy made a whole bunch of money, and it's super, super fun. And I understand why these guys have gone that direction. I mean, it's an interesting alternative to the regular PGA Tour life.
Yeah, for sure. And I would imagine do you think it has a good chance to be a successful tour, over the long haul?
Oh, I do. I mean, there's, everything will evolve, and they had the balls to start it, and to go with it with a lot of adversity. I think there's a time and a place and a fit for everything, and they really do have a good product. From the outside looking in, it's a very well run organization, and I think they will have success.
Well, one of the players that I've seen golf Twitter demanding that gets out on that tour is Anthony Kim, and I know that would break the internet. I mean, he's like Bigfoot at this point. But you had an opportunity to caddy for Anthony early on in his career. I guess tell us a little bit about that. What it was like caddying for AK back in the day.
I did. I was Anthony's first caddy. Anthony went to Oklahoma, which is where Todd Hamilton went to school. And they had a little bit of a bond, and it worked out to where Todd was taking a week off in 2007, and Anthony got a start, and at the Texas Open in San Antonio, and this young brash kid shows up with all the talent in the world, and a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. And that week we finished second, tied for second place, and a star was kind of born. He still had to go through the Q school, and he had to have a talk with Todd about hiring me away. And we ended up getting through Q school, and I worked for him his rookie year. There's I really can't think of too many golfers that really had the talent and the mindset to maybe give Tiger a run back then in 07, 08, 09, except for Anthony. It was pretty incredible.
Do you think he'll ever come back and play again?
From what I understand, he tore his Achilles, which I think he could play a week here, a week there, but I think week in and week out, walking golf courses and the grind, maybe playing 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row. I don't see that happening. I mean, the LIV would be a perfect place for him to reappear, as it's 54 holes and a little, and there's only 8 tournaments or 9 tournaments.
Yeah.
But it's a great, I think Anthony loves being the mystery man. Right. So it'd be interesting to see.
Stay tuned. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. We'll get you out of here on a couple more. I mean, you mentioned you've been caddying for quite a while now. What do you feel like, for you, or just, looking at other caddies, being out with other caddies, what's the most important trait a good caddy has?
I mean, obviously it's being positive. Golf and all other sports, tend to get you down. The more positive you can be, even if you don't feel that way, if you can project that, it can only help. And I think adapting to the situation you're in. I mean, different players want something different. I think you're more of a best friend with as much information as you can give. That's the way I try to explain is that to have facts to back up any kind of information, or to have information for facts for any kind of information you're trying to give to a golfer. But be there for them, and in times of trouble, hopefully see the conservative side, I guess, is the other thing. I like to say that caddies always try to side with old man par, and instead of kind of being a hero. That's the other thing you can hope for to be a good caddy.
All right, Bambi, you said you've got the claret jug in your possession, at least a replica of it. Can you dig it out for us?
Yeah. So maybe a few months after we'd won the Open, Todd presented me with a pretty special gift. I guess the players get offered a memento. It's a claret jug that's I think it's 9/10 of the size of the actual jug. It's pretty neat to have around the house. It's a nice, discussion piece every once in a while. I guess I need to clean it a little bit better, but yeah, pretty neat thing to have from the 2004 Open Championship.
Unbelievable. Somebody's going to be taking that home this week there at St. Andrews. So cool. Let's say you're playing. You've got a 1-shot lead, and at the Open Championship, it's the final round. And I've been caddying for you all week, done a great job for you, but I broke my leg the night before. And I call you up. I said, "Hey, I can't go tomorrow. Who are you gonna give your call to work for you the final round?"
Probably Frank Williams. Frank won with Stuart Sink. Long time roommate on the road, and I think he'd laugh that I'd be leading. Maybe and maybe give me such a hard time that I wouldn't be so nervous that I'd hit one over into Dunny's golf shop over there on the right. I'd aim way left and maybe try to roll a 9-iron up there and do a Constantino Rocca.
Love it, dude. Yeah, Frank's a great choice. Hey, Bambi, thanks for taking a little time out of your day, telling us some stories. Really appreciate it.
No, great to be on, and glad that the caddies are finally getting a little bit of recognition, and glad to be here.
Love it. Just a reminder that this Under the Strap podcast is presented by the Therabody Theragun. We'll be back soon with another podcast, so please subscribe. And in the meantime, make sure to follow the Caddy Network on all your social media channels. I'm host John Rathouz. Thank you for listening.